they finally updated the Blade! So I've been on a Magic the Gathering break for the last year or so, partly because my wife was pregnant at the time, but mostly because of Wizards' curious decision to turn Historic into now effectively a rotating format with the advent of Alchemy. Now this, to my mind, is just an absolute bizarre decision and I really didn't like it, so I decided to leave the game for a while. Then they've announced Explorer, which was not quite enough to tempt me back just yet, but you know what? I fell into the trap. I fell into the marketing trap. Basically, they returned to Dominaria with a Liliana of the Veil reprint, and what can I do? I'm weak. I was weak. The Liliana of the Veil reprint, along with Explorer, the now new non-rotating format that actually treats the cards as they are supposed to be treated, as written on the paper, means that I guess I'm now back in to the game for at least a little while. But the first thing I noticed logging back into the new updated client is they have finally fixed the Play Blade. As your resident game UI overthinker, I feel that it is my duty to take you through this blade in excruciating detail, discuss what's good about it, discuss where further improvements can be made, and give my overall opinions. For those of you who don't remember, here's some footage of what the Blade used to look like. Blade was essentially a vertical list of game types presented in a somewhat arbitrary order, with Find Match being the bottom section containing your evergreen game modes: Play, Brawl, Standard Ranked, Traditional Standard Play, Traditional Standard Ranked, Traditional Historic Ranked, Historic and Bot Match. Seriously? And then there are 3 kinds of Standard, 2 kinds of Historic, you know, it was a bit of a mess. Then above that evergreen section was where your events were, so these were the sort of rotating events. This list included all of the drafts that were currently available, the sealed events and other temporary events. It also included the non-rotating evergreen events, which were confusingly just called Historic Event and Standard Event. Those were in the event section rather than the play section, even though they were evergreen and didn't rotate in and out. Indeed, it would be hard to imagine a way to make this a less intuitive list, both in terms of form and order. But actually, I forgot to mention that the visibility of these modes was actually controlled by this toggle, and I've made a previous video about that, but the toggle that controlled the visibility of the game modes in the mobile version was inside the Blade itself. In the desktop version, it was just on the front page instead, and no one could ever find it or even realise it was a toggle because of the way that the UI was laid out. But this was all in the past. Shh, it's in the past. It's in the past, it's in the past. We can forget all about it. It's done. It's in the past. It's in the past. First of all, now when you hit play, it immediately takes you to the last game mode that you were playing with, the deck you were playing it with. So that's excellent, but it also now shows you recently played. So you can see I have recently been playing a bit of Explorer Ranked and a bit of Historic Brawl as well. I've only got 2 most recent game modes because the last thing I played aside from this was a sealed event, which now isn't available, and so it's missing from this section. So props for that. It's responsive to when game modes stop being available as well, which is excellent. I love this page. The only criticism I would have on this one is these play buttons when you are doing something like a sealed or a draft event. Even if the event you were playing in completed entirely, the button still says resume. You actually go to sign up for a traditional draft, the button just shows the price. It doesn't say play, it doesn't say resume. Now, if I were a cynical man, I would say that this might be a deliberate attempt to get people who have completed their draft or sealed event to think that they need to resume their event, whereas resume in this context is just incorrect. You're not resuming because the event actually finished. You would be signing up for a new event. So that's a minor improvement that probably should be made at some point, unless you really want to be very cynical about it. Now this is the recently played section in the Blade, okay? There's 3 tabs here: flag, table, and banner. Now, I am not a big fan of these icons. I don't really see how there's anything about flag and table which would imply to me what those different game modes would be. And I think that's a little bit of a shame, especially given that having labels underneath your icons is clearly part of the UI style guide here. So yes, you can't have a tooltip if you're designing for mobile, but there's no reason why you can't have words methods under here if it's in your UI style guide. So under the table, we then have this subset of options to select. You have ranked, you have play, and you have brawl. So you have a set of sub-tabs underneath the main tabs, and then you also have this toggle selector for selecting best of 1 and best of 3. And it's all really neatly laid out. So under ranked you have the 4 game modes: standard, alchemy, historic, and explorer. Under play you have the 4 game modes plus bot match, and under brawl you have the 2 brawl options, historic and standard. At this stage we've got 4 formats available: standard, historic, explorer, and alchemy, for what that's worth. You then also have best of 1 and best of 3 on all of these, I think, and then you have brawl, and I think brawl is always best of 1, but you also have standard brawl and you have historic brawl, so you just have this kind of flow chart that you're trying to navigate through. And I think having child tabs effectively helps you navigate through that very well. Sidebar, incidentally, why is Explorer Brawl not a thing? We have Standard Brawl, we have Historic Brawl, but given that Explorer was literally released to undo the damage that Alchemy did to the historic format, why hasn't there been clamouring for an Explorer Brawl yet? In fact, can we just bin Alchemy by this point? Can we just get rid of it? Because literally, no one likes it. No one okay, if you play Alchemy, genuinely, if you play Alchemy, can you let me know why? Okay, good, right. In the comments, let me know why. Why do you enjoy Alchemy? Because literally, I can't get my head around. Overall, I think this layout is fab. It's really good, okay? The cascading hierarchy of game modes works really well to help you find what it is you're looking for. Where would I make improvements to this? I would draw more attention to the fact that these icons are in fact tabs. I have seen on the Arena subreddits that some people are missing these, particularly not being able to find Brawl at all, which is just here, so clearly there needs to be something improved. What exactly is wrong with these icons? It's kind of hard for me to put my finger on precisely, but I believe it's a combination of the icons themselves not really reading like icons, okay? And this is partly because the other icons in the style guide are monochrome grey icons. These are all buttons here, and these are not monochrome grey icons, so they don't really read like icons. We also have that they don't really appear as a set with each other, okay? You know, they are not consistent colours between the 3 of them. They are not consistent heights between the 3 of them. It really does feel like these were sort of placeholder icons. I mean, okay, your rank for ranked, fine. And this updates actually as you change your rank, so that's okay. Don't judge me for being gold, I'm not really playing very much at the moment. This icon for Brawl, yeah, okay, I mean, I guess that's the icon for Brawl. This icon in the middle, this is just the Magic logo. This really feels like it was a placeholder icon that they put there and just haven't got round to updating. It could also be that this indicator up here is blue, whereas this tab indicator is orange, and so you do have a little bit of incongruousness there. I don't think it's a big deal because the main tab indicator for the UI is orange, as well as your little notification icon, so it's definitely within the UI style to have tabs being orange. It might just be that this orange is just a little bit too close in proximity to the fire border of the blade itself, and so maybe it's just getting a little bit lost. So maybe swap it for blue. Maybe it's a bit of all 3. With things like UI readability, it's kind of hard to always pin it down to a single thing. But I reckon if you make these icons monochrome, you make them, you know, consistent height and style to each other, and you change this to be a blue tab rather than an orange tab, I reckon this will improve readability a lot. Now, I also want to draw particular attention to this toggle. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might be the first time Wizards has officially recognised the terminology best of 1 and best of 3. which is just better than traditional and non-traditional, I guess. This is one of the really important heuristics in UX, right? Is communicating with people in natural language. In fact, I think NNG has it as something like their second usability heuristic on their top 10. Communicating with people in their natural language is always going to be superior to trying to push branding onto people. No one outside of Wizards, as far as I can tell, have ever used the terminology traditional and normal, I guess, for best of one versus best of three. Everyone calls it best of one, everyone calls it best of three. People call it BO1, BO3. So it's good that Wizards is acknowledging that this is what people want, and they're just incorporating that into their product, because it's kind of ridiculous, especially if you're a new player. I shouldn't have to read a Reddit to work out what it is that I'm playing. But genuinely, I really like the design of this toggle as well. I like the fact that it's responsive, that as you change it, the label itself changes to best of one, best of three. The affordance is there. It looks very much like a toggle, unlike the old toggle that was like a totally unique style compared to everything else in the interface. It's clear that it is a toggle, partly because it's in sort of this line of succession coming from the top down the UI. You know, it's an ordered list of things to select. So the readability of it as a toggle is very much there. Finally, we have the flag portion of the blade, and this, after how good the table section was, this really is where it feels like the design team may have just taken a nap for the afternoon. Like, I think they kind of considered their job was done when they did that table section. So first of all, it takes you to show me all of the events, and it's literally just, okay, all of the events on the screen in a 3x(n) grid. Here we've got Color Challenge, Qualifier Play, Ultimate Showdown, Premier Draft, Dominaria United Alchemy, so that's non-alchemy, Traditional Draft Dominaria United, Explorer Event, oh, Traditional Alchemy Event, okay, Traditional Explorer Event, just call it best of three, just call it best of three. You've already acknowledged best of three elsewhere in your UI now. What is the order here? Like, what's the order here? So you've got some stuff at the top, the draft, quick draft, jump in. Is this literally alphabetical order? Alchemy Explorer, Historic, Standard. That's the order. It's just alphabetical, but it's alphabetical from events only, because jump in is obviously, you know, so they put the drafts at the top. At least we've got in progress events as a filter. So if you're in the middle of something, that's great. But no, if it's in progress, it will very likely appear in your recently played anyway. Realistically though, I don't see why we can't have something very similar to what was done in the table tab, where I can select the format I want to play to filter the list of events that apply to that format. If you didn't want to transpose that filter into this blade, I would say that we could at least have it sort of more reasonably laid out. Like, you do have a filter for limited and constructed, okay, fine. It still feels to me like let's just have a best of one, best of three filter over in the blade, and then that helps us navigate to the event we actually want. And that's going to be everything from me today. Is this design perfect? No, it's definitely not perfect, but do you know what? It's a good design. It's a great design even. Way better than it was before, and absolutely necessary. It was definitely the correct time to release this upgrade because of the explosion in formats and play modes that we've seen in the last year. We absolutely needed a way to organize those play modes better, and Wizards have really delivered on it. So top marks from me, well done. That's going to be everything from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. All the best, and talk to you soon.